And it is unacceptable to guilt trip Muslims, fellow vulnerable, naive, or just innocent in regards to this topic, Muslims, into thinking that they are leaving the religion if they choose to participate in this country. It is unacceptable. Scholars today from around the world have clarified this, that voting, participation is not only permissible, it is healthy and a must because it will impact your lives. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله عليكم ورحمته تعالى وبركاته. Folks, in just over 24 hours, the UK will be going to the polls. This is an incredibly crucial moment for our country. What is determined in these elections will be impacting every single person, regardless of race or creed, that lives in this country. I've received quite a few questions from people that are concerned, Muslims, asking, is it permissible to be voting? Now, I just want to take a look at this question. Certain people are afraid that by voting, they are either falling into disbelief, kufr, that they have left Islam, or they have committed shirk, greater still. Not only have they left Islam, they have believed or endorsed another God besides Allah, besides God. So what is all of this? Let's just take a quick look at this. So where is this kind of rhetoric coming from? This is emerging from some fringe minority Muslim groups that are promoting and propagating disengagement from society. They're pushing some beliefs that laws, in essence, can only be made by God. And they're relying on certain verses of the Quran, namely two. One being, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ, that whosoever does not govern, or the verse actually means who doesn't rule by what Allah has revealed, and they are disbelievers. The second verse being, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ, that the hukm, which can mean the commandment or the rule, is only for Allah. Now this is what they're pushing out to people, and they're saying, well, since God is the only one who can make laws, if you endorse a government or a state and their laws, you have, in essence, accepted another God. So a lot of Muslims have got concerned about this. This is absolutely inaccurate. It is a misrepresentation. We also find the cry that we are living, because these laws are made by humans, not by God. We are living in Dar al-Harb. We are living in a land of war. This whole system, this whole nation, all of these nations are illegitimate nations. They have no authority. They have no validity. First of all, these verses. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. The rule or the commandment is only for God. This verse appears 3 times in the Quran. Once in Surah Al-An'am, twice in Surah Yusuf. In Surah Al-An'am, clearly many mufassirin, commentators on the Quran, have taken a look at this. People like Fakhruddin al-Razi, people like al-Baydawi, al-Nasafi, Ibn Atiyya, Ibn Ashur, al-Qurtubi, and many others. You will see, they will say, first of all, the first verse in Surah Al-An'am is talking about a punishment for a certain people that had perpetrated, as in, will God deal with those people in the afterlife? It's not talking about anything to do with laws. The second two in Surah Yusuf are speaking about worship, and the third about al-Mashi'ah, about destiny. None of these are speaking about legislation. This is a misrepresentation. The other verse that is used, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ, who doesn't command or rule by what Allah has revealed, is a kafir. This verse begins, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا التَّوْرَةَ, that we revealed the Torah, and in the Torah we had written these things. So the same mufassirin, you can read all of them, Imam Shawkani, you can read through Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, al-Qurtubi, al-Nasafi, Baydawi, Ibn Atiyya, all of these people, Ibn Ashur, they will say that the scholars, the outright absolute majority of Muslims did not accept that this was aimed at regular Muslims or rulers. It was not at that. You do not become a non-Muslim, a kafir, by making certain laws of convenience, for example. And there is a hadith in Sahih Muslim that also supports that, from Bara ibn Azib, saying this verse was particularly for a Jewish tribe. where it was revealed in relation to the Torah. There was an extremist sect that emerged in early Islam that was incredibly violent. They were known as the Khawarij, and they used these verses to attack Sayyidina Ali, the leader at the time of the Muslims and a cousin of the Prophet, and also Muawiyah radiallahu an. And they said that these two have come up with a system to mediate, and God has not revealed this system, therefore they are kuffar. Sayyidina Ali's response to that was that kalimatu haqqin urida bihal batil. And this is incredibly important, that this is a word of truth that is being used for falsehood. And that is exactly what's going on here. Coming back to some other arguments that follow from these people, they are saying that this is a land of kufr. This is a land of what they call Dar al-Harb. We are at war with Islam. We are not at war with Islam. Anybody preaching that we live in a land that is at war with Islam is preaching hatred, and these are dangerous extremist ideologies. You cannot say we live in a land that is at war. The land is at war with Islam. It is not. Many scholars, including people like Imam Mawardi, Al-Ramli, many other people that have touched upon this issue have said that wherever Muslims live, if they can live peacefully and with freedoms to practice their religion, that is Dar al-Salam. That is a land of peace and Islam as far as we are concerned. Many Muslims for centuries lived in Al-Andalusia, Muslim Spain. They lived under non-Muslim rule. Scholars of their time flourished with them. They did not recognize that to be any form of kufr. So when people are pushing this, what they are pushing is a political agenda that has no reality in Islam. Muslims who are encouraging and propagating disengagement, they say that to support non-Muslims is unacceptable because it means you're supporting disbelief in its entirety. That is nonsense, utter nonsense. This type of rhetoric has no place in Islam. We see from the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when he was in Mecca, there was a treaty put together by non-Muslims of the time to preserve the rights of any vulnerable people that were being attacked or that were losing out in any way or that they were suffering, and this was called Hilful Fudul. You can check this up. This is a very well-known matter. Now, the Prophet Muhammad participated in this treaty, but what's more important is not just his participation. Imam Bukhari transmits in his Adab al-Mufrad that even after the Prophet had migrated to Medina, he praised that treaty and said, "Lo du'itu ilayhi al-yawm." If I was called to endorse that treaty today, lafa'alt, I would have done this in Islam as well. Now that shows, even though the treaty was something set up by Muslims, it wasn't something that God had revealed. The Prophet was not only saying that it was good, but he would support it under all circumstances. So we see from here that supporting people, whether of whatever race, religion, creed, does not mean that you cannot disagree with them on certain matters. Allah teaches us in the Quran that there would be about the Roman Empire in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Allah says that a time shortly after, the Roman Empire will be victorious over the Persian Empire, and this is a success for the Muslims. And وَيَوْمَئِذٍ يَفْرَحُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, that the believers will be happy and they will rejoice on that day. Does that mean that they encouraged and endorsed everything the Roman Empire was doing? Of course not. But it meant that they were closer to them. So let's not fall victim to this kind of rhetoric. This has no place in Islam. From the Quran, we see a quick story of Yusuf alayhi salam being mentioned, where he also assisted the king of his time. He said, "Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard, inni hafizun alim." Let me be your key treasurer. And that was under his system. This was actually commended. It was mentioned in the Quran. It wasn't kind of condemned as, "Oh my God, that's a non-Muslim system, and how dare you be a part of it or support it." Most importantly, now that we've got some of the religious angle, some of the evidences to show that these arguments are in essence a political ideological agenda and not really rooted in Islam or the Quran and Sunnah. Let's take a look at this whole thing. Let's take a fresh look from just a common sense perspective. We are part and parcel of this society. We are the British people. This is a home. Most of us born and raised here. To declare this as, I don't know, some kind of a false god, that, oh my God, I participated in the country in which I live, now I worship another god. That's ridiculous. If Parliament tomorrow passes a law on something saying, I don't know, whatever it may be, oh my God, people are not going to start worshipping or start assuming that's another god. We do not live in such a time where people think, oh, any laws that are being passed by Parliament are somehow divine or like unto God. We do not live in that. Nobody thinks like that. It is absurd to claim that. And it is unacceptable to guilt trip Muslims, fellow vulnerable, naive, or just innocent in regards to this topic, Muslims, into thinking that they are leaving the religion if they choose to participate in this country. It is unacceptable. Scholars today from around the world have clarified this, that voting, participation is not only permissible, it is healthy and a must, because it will impact your lives. Now, am I saying that, oh, if somebody asks the question, but I don't have to vote? Well, that's right, you do have the liberty to abstain. I'm not saying you don't have the liberty to abstain, you do have that. And that is once again protected under your freedoms. Although I think that's incredibly naive, because even if you don't vote, the outcome of the election will still impact you as an individual. So it's one of those situations where inaction is still an action. But you do have that liberty to exercise apathy or indifference, or I don't want to vote, or I can't be bothered. But that's very different to saying, oh, I will not vote because God does not allow me to vote, or to vote means I now believe in another God. And this is a choice, an either or between Islam or voting. That is utterly unacceptable, people. We, the Muslims of this country, will not accept this kind of rhetoric. We will not allow this kind of what is hate speech to divide us, to confuse us, or to hijack the name of Islam, which is a deen, a religion of compassion and peace. Anybody that is promoting, preaching such speech that we live in a land of war with an illegitimate state where everything is invalid, it's laws, it's kufr, it's shirk, it's like other false gods, to participate is kufr. Anybody pushing this intolerant, hateful, extremist kind of rhetoric, in my understanding, has clearly betrayed Allah and His Messenger. Right? We do not accept that, and we will never allow that message of hate to hijack our religion. I have been asked about my own personal preferences. I'm definitely backing Corbyn. I mean, he's the man as far as I'm concerned, but that's my personal decision. What I do encourage everybody, whoever you're voting for, is to participate. Let's recognize that we here belong to the fabric of this society, and we need to make a difference. So get involved, people. Do not let people deter you. Take care, stay blessed. Over and out.